Welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love. And of course, you know, we have the general in the studio, attorney Greg Jackson.
Once again, it's on, brother love. Hey, you know how we get this thing started every weekend, man. Every week. How was the weekend this past weekend?
Hey, man, weekend was great. But boy, I tell you, something that I saw, Brother Jackson, on Friday was incredible.
What you saw on Friday?
Tiger Bay. I'm going straight to it. Normally we go through these niceties, commish, and I'm not even going to do that. I back up. Greg Jackson,
yes,
you got to let the folk know who they're listening to, and nobody does special guest introductions like you. So if
Absolutely.
you would, please.
Listen, man, it's my pleasure and it's an honor to do it. If you're tuned into these two voices, you're tuned into two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday night, the podcast, the Let's Talk Nation. And tonight, brother love, we have a very special guest, none other than our Orange County District 3 Commissioner Mayra Uribe, who is joining us. She's going to talk a little bit about our campaign, talk a little bit about what's been going on. But more importantly, brother love, she's going to be talking to Let's Talk Nation, our 23 million viewers, brother love. It's been confirmed.
We got him.
Because, you know, I'm a former assistant attorney general for the state of Florida. But I will say that if you want to be a part of the night show, if you want to have a conversation with Commissioner Uribe, all you got to do is give us a call, sit down, and we're going to have a great conversation. But she's going to have to get out of here because she has some sign waving to do, because guess what? Tomorrow is election day. So, brother love, let's
get it on. Hey, Commissioner, thank you first and foremost for joining us this evening. You know, I've watched your work being a former commissioner myself. It is not easy because when you're on the dais making decisions, you're making the decisions that you deem best based on the input from your constituents. So once again, welcome to Let's Talk Nation.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Commissioner, and I want to thank you, Mr. Terrence, for having me here and allowing a platform for us to talk about what's going on in Orange County. And not bad.
Well, thank you. Attorney Greg Jackson, man, let me pass the baton to you.
Yes, sir. So, I mean, I guess let's go ahead and just get everything started out. You have, from all estimations from what I've seen, you are not afraid to stand up for your constituents. You're not afraid to push back when things need to be addressed. And I recall that you were the lone vote against a certain issue that took place in Orange County. Let's talk about where that resilience comes from, where that courage comes from for your constituents.
You know, it's what a great question, because people don't realize when you're in our seat, and you know this, we don't own that seat. We've been selected to represent our community. And people tend to forget that in politics, and you guys have seen it over the years, where we think about, well, what would we want out of our representative? And there's just certain things that you expect. And that one thing, we're going to call it what it is, was a tax increase.
Right.
A property tax increase on probably the most vulnerable time economically that we could be looking at. Everyone knows your homeowner's insurance is going up, your car insurance is going up, inflation is affecting us, food costs.
Right.
This year alone, they were saying back to school supplies went up 80%. Okay, so everything has gone up. And then the county says, well, we think we should raise taxes right now. And not a little. Let's maximize that millage rate. But here's where it's at. It's not that it wasn't warranted. It's how you handle it.
Right.
How do you make decisions like that? You've never let the community know we're looking at raising taxes. How do you make decisions like that and say, wait a minute, maybe we should maximize the tax? If we do need to do this, have we tighten our belt as much as we could before we impose that tax increase on the public? And then if you absolutely did, why would you go to the fullest extent? Because that's in perpetuity. You can never roll that back.
That's right.
You know,
That's
so
right.
They took the last 17 years that they have not raised a tax. And I always say, I think you could handle $11 more a year over the last 17 years. But to know, I just got my tax bill yesterday. Mine went up $508 more than the previous year, just because of this MSTU increase. And it even showed what it was, they thought it was going to be and what it's going to be because of the millage rate increase. We're talking about a 26% increase. That's crucial. So now my property homeowners went up 45%. And now my tax bill went up. So I'm waiting to see what my new escrow payment's going to be.
Oh,
that's when it comes.
Yeah, you're right.
That's when it comes. Because see, that bill, we know we don't write a check to that bill, not most of us.
Right.
Our mortgage company will take it in and they're going to calculate and they're going to get that little letter that we hate to open because it's going to tell us what that new amount is that we're going to have to pay to cover all those costs.
Yeah.
But I never said, it might have been worth it, but you analyze this. And my biggest thing is, I asked the fire chief and I said, what part of this increase is labor? What part is capital? Why do you need $70 million extra right now? And he said, I don't have that information.
What?
So you're asking me to give you freelance $70 extra million off the backs of the county resident, and you can't tell me how you're going to spend it.
You know, Brother Love, there's something to be said about being a good steward of taxpayers' dollars. And we hear people say it, but as I said, in watching Commissioner Uribe, we see it in action as well.
You're right.
And it's not that, you know, that not to address that, hey, maybe it does need to go up, but how you address it and how people can digest it. So,
You're right, and Commissioner, I applaud you for that, but you said something that resonates with everybody. When you talk about citizens, we all come to a point in time where we have to tighten our belt. And government should do the same thing. So with that being said, and you just said something that Attorney Jackson and I, we've had conversation with our constituents that watch Let's Talk Nation. Think about people that are on fixed incomes. When you look at that property tax bill going up and you hit the nail on the head, what the escrow is going to look like, but then because of supposedly the increased value of your home, the insurance bill that's coming with that.
that's right.
So
That's right.
will you let our audience know what cities do you represent in District 3?
In my district alone, I represent the city of Belle Isle, city of Edgewood, and a huge significant area of city of Orlando. And so, but on top of that, you know, we've got a lot of unincorporated in the county. And all of our districts pretty much kind of fall in the same realm. And like I said, we have to think about everybody.
Everybody.
When I sit at that dais, I don't say, what do I want? I say, what's best for us?
Right.
I was blessed enough to get the endorsement of the Sentinel. And one of my favorite lines in there, it said, I'm savvy enough to broker deals that will benefit my community. And that's the key thing.
That is.
When I go, my community is my family. I tell people, just like I would fight for I'm a mom, so we know, as parents, we fight for our kids in every which way. I feel the same way. Because you know what? They're coming behind us.
That's
You're right.
I tell people all the time, we don't think about that next generation coming behind us. And one thing that I firmly believe, I'm a daughter of immigrants. My parents are from Colombia and Argentina, but I was born here. I was born in Pine Castle. My dad worked for Martin Marietta in the 70s. And growing up, I always heard, Myra, we work hard so you don't have to work as hard as we do.
Wow.
And I never knew really what that meant. I'm like, oh, they just work hard. They don't know what they're talking about. Until I became a parent.
Right.
Till I got married, till I bought my home, till I had a child, and now I have 2 children. And I understand that vision. And, I'm a minority. I'm married to an African American. We have children that are half Spanish, half African American. We know the struggle. Us collectively are paving for that next generation behind us to not have to pave it. And so I think about that. And I think about what decisions I'm making are going to affect them. But not just them. You,
You're right.
my other neighbors, everyone that's sitting in this boat. It's not, I don't own this seat.
Wow.
And that's how I feel.
Well, you said you were endorsed by the Orlando Sentinel, but I want to correct you on one thing. You earned that endorsement.
Yes, I did. I did.
You earned that
They put me
endorsement.
through 2 hours of rigorous questions. Yes, and ironically, I was endorsed by the fire department, Orange County Fire. And in all of this, they've been trying to advocate for their wages, and you know that.
Yes.
So you were commissioner. Unfortunately, they've gotten the short end of the stick over time. And so they were really advocating because they felt, well, if we get this millage increase, we're going to get our back pay. So when I'm sitting at the dais, and I had told them, I said, guys, this is a bad deal. And I think my quote in the paper was, today is a bad day for government. Transparency in government, because you've lost the respect and the confidence of the public in us when you make decisions like we're made. And I told them, so when I was in the dais, I asked Chief, are you going to spend the money? He didn't have that. Then I said, so now that you're going to get this money, you have a $22 million shortfall on wages. Are you going to pay the firefighters what they're due? And the chief said, whoa, we're still in negotiations. And I looked at them in the audience and I said, you hear that, right? I'm here making sure that you're going to get your wages.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they won't even guarantee your wages right here in front of you. And they understand that because they're being, in my opinion, being pulled as a pawn in this thing to get happen. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, if you live in unincorporated Orange County, you might have received your tax bill yesterday or today. And if you look closely, what was expected for your taxes and what is going to be for your taxes has gone up. And you look at that final number and you look at the MSTU for fire, and that's where it's
That's where it's coming.
Wow. you've served one term already as commissioner.
One and a half.
One and a half. There we go. I like that.
I like that
that.
I take credit for that half.
Just like when I was 5'10", I always wanted to say I was 5'10" and a half until I got 6 feet, then I was good.
Okay, yeah.
But you know, you've gotten through the first term.
Yeah.
What is the most challenging aspect of going into a second term?
That's a tough question. Making sure the folks in my community know what we've done. We forget very easily. You know, people forget so quickly. Even us, you know, we'll be like, oh yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot, and we've fought a lot. And recently, you know, we've really advocated to give voters the right to vote on things and things like that. But I think the hardest is, my husband always says, you should keep a notebook of everything you do, because you forget.
Right.
Because he's like, when we went to go do our mail, he's like, what have you done? I'm like, a lot. He's like, all right, well, tell me. Well, geez, I don't know. I got to think about it. You know, and I gotta have those moments, and then I start writing them down, because it's constant. I mean, we do community efforts, we do good decision efforts, developmental efforts, environmental efforts, you know, back to school efforts, everything to even this vote, and even most recently, medical debt. Medical debt is something I wonder if you guys would watch.
Yeah.
I was also one that descended on this and kind of went out there. We had an opportunity where we had $4.5 million left of ARPA money, federal money,
Right.
so no taxpayer.
Right.
And we know that a lot of folks have medical debt. And Attorney Jackson, you know, and you both know, that medical debt runs to bad credit, runs to being able to get
right.
things, being able
That's
to
right.
leverage your own finances, because it kind of hangs on you.
That's right.
And it's not something that you can say, I have a car, and here it is. It's something, a service you had to have.
Right.
You, unfortunately, whether your insurance was shortchanged or you didn't have it, you're stuck with it. So we had an opportunity with a national company who said, we're going to take 4.5 million and we're going to use our negotiating power and equate that to over 45 million in reduction of medical debt,
Wow.
equating to 150,000 residents that live in Orange County. We're going to be able to clear out the debt. Because they're basically going to go to Advent Health and Orlando Health and say, give us the medical debt. All right, it's $100. We're going to give you $10. We're going to call this out. You know,
Right.
they have that ability, and it was great. When do we ever get to maximize?
You're right.
You know, 100% our money, and kind of at the last minute, they said, well, why don't we end up not doing that and give it to homelessness? And we know we've got a homelessness issue, but we're always going to have
Have medical debt. You're right. You're
You
right.
know,
That's right.
but medical debt could actually prevent homelessness. Could actually help people financially, actually move people forward and get them out of that weight that they're carrying.
That's right.
I know plenty of people who are paying $50 a month forever for something they went and had done 7 years.
Well, not to mention that a lot of that medical debt also causes people some mental distress.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but Commissioner, I applaud what you're doing. I mean, I think it's incredible. But there's one thing in particular that really caught my attention, and you really have to. And let me look at the camera when I say this. You have to believe in what you're doing to sit in that seat, and the way that you champion this particular issue. Visit Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
Visit Orlando,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna turn it over to you, but I have to say to Orange County taxpayers across the board that when you get a champion like this that stands up, and I mean when I say stands up, you stood up against. I mean I've been paying attention. Attorney Jackson, I've been paying attention. Champions like that don't come across that often, and the way you stood up to say, "Hey, look, I want to see the value in," and don't get me wrong, I believe Visit Orlando has value.
Absolutely.
But just like any and everything else, I want to trust but verify. But also, I also believe that taxpayers also, when we talk about medical debt, when we talk about some of the other issues that we're talking about here, the way you champion the Visit Orlando issue, and then our audience are like, what was the issue? What was the issue?
Well, I got to preface that the reason why I'm having such an aggressive campaign against me is because of that. You know, because I didn't put my head down and just acknowledge and kept going. You're talking about years, decades, that no one's really stood up to this organization. And I do believe it. Tourism has its place. We know that.
Right.
You all, there isn't anyone that's listening who can't associate Orlando with tourist attractions.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
Right.
And I enjoy them too. You know, who doesn't? You know, but when you think about things, you got to think about numbers. I always say I think I was an accountant in the previous life because numbers tell you a lot.
They do.
So when we were gonna a year ago, we were supposed to just put on a consent agenda and visit Orlando, check. They don't get checked. We're gonna give them their money and they're in for another 4 years. And I said, wait a minute, we need to pull that. That's a multi-million-dollar contract. That's a tune of $113 million, and we're not gonna look at it. So I pulled it. And I said, I want to review this contract. And I pulled the contract and I read it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. So I started asking questions. And then I started feeling the heat. Why are you asking questions? Why can't you just go with the status quo and let us do what we've done? Everyone does it. No one has to do anything. Just keep your head down and keep moving. And I said, no, my job is not to just put my head down and keep going.
That's right.
And no one in this town or anyone who knows us can't tell it's a very minimally financial economics of jobs in that industry.
Yeah.
Yes, there are GMs and things like that, but for the most part, we also, no one cannot know that we have a housing crisis.
Right.
We have an affordability crisis. We have a crisis going on where people can't survive in this town, even when they work.
Right.
That's the problem. So, but then I also started noticing the extreme amount, and I said, well, tell me everything you do. You know, what do you do? And then they said, well, we bring tourists here, and we do this, and we do that. And I said, but so does all these other major theme parks, right? The Mouse, you know, Harry Potter, all them, Shamu, they do a lot on their own.
Right.
And so, and then I started looking at numbers. And I said, 7 years ago, you were dependent on tourist tax dollars at 78%. 7 years later, you're dependent on our tax dollars at 93%.
Well, you get to the good part because Attorney Jackson and I, we've been following this. You're getting to the good part. And when you say that they are more reliant on Orange County government dollars than ever before, I'm waiting for you to get to the best part of them all.
Yeah.
And that's the comptroller.
Yes. So, and you know, and also, like, if I have a business and I'm starting, I may need a loan to help me going. But as my business grows and it's accountable, I should have revenue coming in so I don't have to be dependent. So how does a major organization like this go backwards? It should be going forward. So to me, it's just common sense and math. And I'm like, you're collecting less money privately. You're dependent on us more. You're spending a lot more. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so I started asking these questions. They didn't like that. And I said, no. You've got too much money. And then I noticed something. They had too much money in the bank sitting there. Okay? And I said, so you're collecting all this money, and you have money in the bank that you can't even spend.
Taxpayer money. to be quite
Taxpayer
frank.
money. Taxpayer money. Taxpayer collected money. And tell me everything how you spend it. Well, we can only do this and this. Well, then we need to change the rules. So I said, they fought me. I wanted a minimal reduction. I'm talking about 2%, 2-3%, which is nothing when you look at the amount. $355 million comes in to Orange County. Matter of fact, they thought it was going to be 345, and they said, no, it's going to be 355. Right? And I said, you have zero going in for infrastructure. You have zero going in for law enforcement, for fire, for transportation. But more importantly than that, 73 million people visit Orange County every year. Give or take, that's about 500,000 people in our town above the 1.5 million that live here. But those 500,000 don't contribute anything. And I'll say there is a fire station on the outskirts of the convention center that is across from the Hilton that only services tourists, and taxpayers pay for that whole fire station.
Interesting.
And I said to Sheriff Mead, I said, when people call 911, do you ask them if they're visiting or if they're local? I mean, that's just a basic question.
Right.
No one does that. So then I said, but how about contributing more to the arts? UCF is a viable, UCF is part of the Big 12. They have an incredible stadium, and we know people come here for the game, for the tailgating, for all of that. Let's give some money to UCF. They said, no. And I said, why not? It's unheard of. Nobody's ever given tourist money to UCF. I said, but this is what it takes to qualify for tourist money. They qualify, which is heads and beds. That's what they call it. Why can't you give it? They were against it. I fought. We got UCF $88 million out of that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And
Wow.
then I said, what about, and they said, well, locally, all we can do is arts. And I said, how much do you give? I said, that's nothing. How about we give them some more? No. You know what? We got $15 million more a year in arts, right?
Very nice.
Right?
Yeah.
It stays local
Very nice.
for artists
Yeah.
here in town.
Attorney Jackson, I gotta say this. You know, we've had people running for office that come on the show. We've had judges that are running for office and judges that are in office come on the show. You know how we had a conversation about judicial education and information?
Right. Yeah.
After Commissioner Uribe wins her reelection, what you're doing here is really constituent education and information.
Right.
A lot of this stuff our audience would never know of.
No. Unfortunately, yeah. It's hard. It's hard to stay on top of this. You gentlemen are in this, and you know, you read, but most people are raising their families, going to work, just trying to survive. So they depend on us. That's why it's so important what we do,
Right.
so that they know that there's someone looking out for them. You know, and then lastly, I didn't get everything I wanted. I actually wanted them to have more of a haircut. I thought it was still too much money. But one thing I advocated for an audit. I said, all right, we'll take less, but give me an independent audit. And they were like, all right, because, you know, one thing I give the mayor is very transparent when it comes to that. Mayor likes answers and questions, and he said, I agree, we should do an audit. And I said, I'll wait for that audit. Because I knew numbers don't lie. That's the thing, numbers don't lie. You can say whatever you want in writing, but numbers
Don't lie.
don't lie.
That's right.
And Comptroller Diamond was very generous of giving us a sneak peek into that audit. And everything that I questioned has been confirmed so far. We
Wow.
still got more.
Wow.
We're talking
Yeah.
about a tune of over $1.3 million of uncollected billing. We're talking about Visit Orlando taking in funds, but paying for things with public money when they get reimbursed, saying it's private funds, when it's public funds because they spent public funds to do it.
Right.
We're talking about over $60 million of bills that have no name on the invoice, so we don't know who got it. We're talking about they weren't allowed to lobby without the permission of the Board of County Commissioners. They was up in Tallahassee. And I saw them in Tallahassee. I was in Tallahassee for transportation. And I said, Visit Orlando's here. And I remember reading the contract. They're not allowed to go without us. I also got a county commissioner appointed to the Visit Orlando board
Nice.
that will start in the new
Good,
year so that
good.
we can have some accountability
Yeah.
for that board.
That's right.
But everything that I questioned, and they had $35 million sitting in the bank and not even collecting appropriate interest. So they had a low bearing account with 100,000, you know, with very little money collecting 5%, but 35 million is only collecting 1%. Does that make any sense?
None at all.
No,
Numbers,
not at all.
numbers again.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie. And lastly, you know, there's also some regulation with federal government protection money. They actually had too much money in there that the money wasn't even protected, heaven forbid something happened with the Fed. So some very poor decisions, poor accounting, poor decision making at the top.
Commissioner, you are a great study because the level, I mean, Attorney Jackson and I, we follow this stuff, but boy, you actually honed in that we're more educated and informed than we were before. And I have to give it up to Comptroller Diamond.
Oh, yeah.
Does an excellent job. And boy, the preview that we got, and thank you for giving us a little bit more detail, it really justifies, and I'm gonna speak for myself, and Brother Jackson can go where he wants to go with this, but I applaud and appreciate how you drill down and how you advocate for taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'll say this, Brother Love. Not only do I believe that Commissioner Uribe is the right person for District 3, I believe that she's the right person to look out for Orange County
Yes.
taxpayers, because that's not just something that affects your district, that affects all of Orange County.
You're right.
I'll say this also, just in full disclosure, and I have to let people know this. I so much believe in Commissioner Uribe and what she's doing is that I've actually endorsed her, and I've actually put my money where my mouth is, and I supported her campaign. Now, it's too late to get out there and support her campaign with finances and things like that, but it's not too late to get out and give Commissioner Uribe your vote, which is something that I know that she would greatly appreciate. And Commissioner, I know that you want to let the folks know directly how important it is that they support you in this campaign.
Now, if you look at that red light and let our audience know the information that you want them to know.
First of all, everyone that's listening, thank you for listening and making some time for me to be here with these gentlemen who really have your best interests at heart and are just bringing you information to be knowledgeable of what's happening in our community and in our government. But yes, I can't keep pushing without you. I need your votes. I need you to come out. Absentee ballots have already been turned in. Early voting ended yesterday. Tomorrow is it. Sadly, we are underperforming right now. This time 4 years ago, we were about 13%. Right now, we're at 8% turnout. It frightens me because when we don't get out and vote, we don't have someone looking out for us. And my commitment to this seat has been 100%. I'm born and raised in this community. It's all I know. It's all I know. I'm an Oak Ridge High School graduate, proud pioneer. I live in the same community I've grown up in. And it's rare because we all know a lot of times when we grow up and we make it, we move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a commitment to this community to stay because I want to remember where I come from. And I want to keep championing for my neighbors, for my friends, for the kids, for the next generation. But we need you. We need you because the honest truth is I've got a battle. Because of all these questions that I keep asking, because of all this information I want to know, people aren't very kind on having that happen because it's good, accountable, transparent government. But it's the right thing to do. And I don't regret doing what I've done so far for you and for me and for us. So I ask you, if you don't live in District 3, you know someone who lives in District 3, and even wherever they live across the state of Florida, tomorrow is pivotal because this is how we get us in a position to look out for us. So I hope you will vote tomorrow, District 3, District 4, District 5, all the districts, because you all are eligible to the ballot. But it's super important that we get people who are going to champion for us and are going to step up when it's not popular and when it's hard to take, some of those punches, but you're doing it for the right reason.
Well, Commissioner Uribe, I want to thank you once again.
Thank you.
And I will say to the Let's Talk Nation audience, when you get a fighter that's in your corner, that fighter needs your support too.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Hey, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And once again, Commissioner Uribe, you're always welcome on Let's Talk Nation. And tomorrow, we'll be cheering you on the victory.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
I appreciate
All
you both. Thank you so much.
We'll see you after this commercial break.
They break, I fix. Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Jaguars and Porsche. Joe's Quality Auto Repair. I specialize in European cars. They break, I fix at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair. Located at 1240 State Road 436 in Altamont Springs. They break, I fix. Call me, mention Let's Talk Nation and bring your certified dealership repair quote. And I beat by 30%. Remember, they break, I fix. Call me at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair at 407-409-6040. Again, 407-409-6040. After they break, I fix. Joe's European Quality Auto Repair.
Joe's European Quality Auto Repair.
Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Jaguars, and Porsche. Joe's Quality Auto Repair specializes in European cars. Joe's Quality...
Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Nation. And Greg, man, what a excellent, I'm not even going to call it an interview.
I mean, listen, Commissioner Uribe has been around for a lot of years. Even before she became commissioner, she's been out fighting for, the folks in Orange County and particularly the folks in their district. So I was not surprised about all of the things that she's done in order to, keep government honest. And it's great to have someone in government who is not of government, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
So it was great to have this conversation with Commissioner Uribe, and we wish her the best of luck.
You're right. Greg, she spoke about a number of issues that we talk about, but I like how she got down into the details of what, most people would never have a clue about.
I mean, listen, the thing about Visit Orlando, I think that people really and truly need to understand exactly what it is that she pointed out and what that means for taxpayers here in Orange County. And so I think that it's that type of fight that's needed. And like I said, once again, anyone who lives in District 3 in Orange County, should seriously look at and should support Commissioner Uribe and give her your vote. I think she's earned your vote, but just double check and make sure we're not going to tell you what to do. But make sure that she's earned your vote and you support her with your vote.
So, Brother Jackson, man, so we're in the primary election, which takes place tomorrow. Recap on some of the key races in Orange County.
Well, listen, man. So some of the key races that folks are looking at is the Florida State Senate District 15 race. That is with former State Senator Randolph Bracey, current State Senator Geraldine Thompson. That race is interesting and contentious for reasons probably that it should not be. But it is a race nonetheless that we will find out tomorrow exactly who it is that is going to be the next or the ongoing senator for District 15. And so, best of luck and hope, on a side note, hope that this resolves some of the issues that have come up as a result of that campaign.
You're right. You're right. Hey, Brother Jackson, I know we've already talked about early voting coming to a conclusion. Hey, tomorrow's game time.
Yeah.
But how many eligible voters in Orange County?
So listen, it's a little over 811,000 eligible voters in Orange County. And to Commissioner Uribe's point, what she was saying is that right now the polls are underperforming. About 91,000 individuals have voted either by mail or through early voting. As a matter of fact, the vote by mail number is 53,000 and some odd change. The early voting, which I hope the folks got a chance to do the early voting at the various polls, because tomorrow you have to go to your assigned poll. But the number of early voters was 38,000. Of that number, Brother Love, what we've seen out of that total number is that right now, proud to say, Democrats are in the lead. They have about 48,000 Democrats who have gone out, almost 49,000 Democrats who've gone out, early voted by mail, and 30,000 of the lazy Republicans who have yet to make it out to the polls.
So what? Listen to you. I'm gonna let that go. So, Brother Jackson, what is LTN projected turnout?
Right now, what it's saying is that it's approximately with vote by mail, with the early voting, at approximately 11% of the eligible voters in Orange County have voted. We're projecting, I think it's going to be a little bit higher. We think it's going to be a little bit higher than what folks are thinking. We're thinking it's going to land somewhere in the 20 to 25% is what we're projecting, or at least we're hoping. Because right now they're at 11% with a little over 90,000 people voting. I think that 90,000 more folks, if not a little bit more, will get out tomorrow and we'll complete that number.
So Brother Jackson, with all that has been said about the people that have gotten out to vote, with the low turnout projections, things of that nature, let me ask you this question. What do you think about the OC vote that Supervisor of Election Glenn Galzine has, first of its kind, and it's Orange County voter outreach, training, and education. And this is something that's being proposed that's not going to be something that takes place just during an election cycle. It's going to be different groups participating in voter information, education, and training. What do you think it's going to lead us down a path that will increase? I guess bottom line is, if that's being invested in, is it going to show dividends down the road?
I believe it is. One of the things about voter education or voter turnout in the underserved African American, Hispanic communities and other low economic communities is that the only time people come out and talk to them about the candidates and voting is during the election cycle. So that means that there's probably 2 years between the time period that someone has someone to come out and say, hey, there's an election coming up, you need to get out and vote. And they're like, what? Say what? So that's going to most certainly shorten the period of time and fill in that gap to where now throughout that 2-year period, people are going to get multiple opportunities to be educated about the voter education aspect of things, as well as candidates that are running. And so I think that with that education and that knowledge, and big ups to Supervisor Gelzine for putting this together, thinking of this, because I think that this gives individuals the opportunity to learn more about the importance of their vote, the importance of their voice, and how to determine the best candidates and representatives for them.
Okay, and I guess a follow-up to that question is, the way this is being structured, and it's nothing cemented yet, but Supervisor of Election Galzine, his vision has been that organizations across the board, nonpartisan, of course, your faith-based organizations, your fraternities, and we know your frat brother Pinto, and the alphas have been, and I say alphas, but I have heard from the Kappas and Omegas.
Sigmas are also out there doing some work as well.
Exactly. But what do you think about the diversity of the groups that are going to be able to, that's going to have the option to engage the Supervisor of Elections Office to say, we want to participate in this process to get the word out from the education standpoint?
And listen, brother, much respect to the fraternities, but in the same respect, you have a number of sororities, you have the AKAs, the Deltas, the Zetas, the Phi Beta, not Phi Beta, excuse me, the Gamma Sigma Rhos, I apologize for that, who are also doing an outstanding job in communities and to some extent have been kind of driving the bus and making sure that certain communities are educated on voters' rights and voter issues. But yeah, I mean, to your point also, Brother Love, there are diverse groups who are going to benefit.
Civic organizations, and I just
it's
mentioned
gonna
sororities
benefit
and fraternities. Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's going to benefit from this program and those dollars to help to educate people. Like I said, Brother Love, it's not going to be a biannual thing. It's a year-round thing where people can understand the importance of their vote and candidates and all of the other things and issues and amendments and all the other stuff. So
I look at it, Brother Jackson, as an investment, but here's something that Dr. Randy Nelson, who is a renowned researcher, evaluation person, something that he taught us years ago is that you have to benchmark where you're at now to see if you're making progress down the road. Just imagine that as a result of this investment that takes place throughout the year, that when an election comes up, it's going to be real interesting to see where the investment is made, because it can be made anywhere.
Right.
But to see if those precincts, that district, see if those numbers, those vote numbers actually go up.
right, yeah, and you're right. So folks are going to be watching. The thing about doing great things is that you somewhat put a target on your back.
You're right.
And while we know the Supervisor Gelzine, will be moving on to bigger and better things, this is going to be even more so part of his legacy. And we know that he has a tremendous past and a tremendous future, and so folks are going to remember this. And I'm thinking and I'm believing that this is going to be a great program that's going to serve Orange County, Central Florida for years, if not decades to come.
Yeah, and you're right. And I have to, before we close out on that, Brother Jackson, I also have to say too, Supervisor Alexa Gelzine also initiated the first transparency initiative to where voters are going to get to watch the ballots when they're open.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the one I thought you were going to ask me about how it is that dead people are voting. And there's an explanation to that, you know what I'm saying? And we've heard time and time again, even dead people voted. What you have to realize is that when that happens, typically what has happened is it's a person that is possibly in a nursing home, may have been ill or something like that, that sent in their ballot by mail and different things like that. So after their ballot is counted, that person, or after their ballot has been sent in, that person may pass away. And so that gives the impression that a dead person voted.
Gotcha.
That's not a dead person voting. That's a person that voted who passed away throughout or in the course of their life.
Logical.
Yeah.
Brother Jackson, I'm going to move us on to House Republican Impeachment Committee finds Biden engaged in impeachable conduct.
Listen, brother, I don't understand why it is that the major news networks aren't talking more about this. We started talking about this probably about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, when we initially started talking about the Hunter Biden issue with Burisma. The fact that there was a Ukrainian prosecutor who was fired when Joe Biden went there and said that if you don't fire this prosecutor, you're not going to get the $1 billion from the U.S. The laptop issue, different things like that. So we've been talking about things that have been taking place with the Biden family, money's going into that family, and different things of that nature. And so recently, or not so recently, but within the last year or so, the Republican Party instituted an impeachment inquiry as it relates to President Joe Biden and his family's ill-gotten gains, if you would, based on when he was vice president up until now, and profiting from his position as an elected official. And what this committee has uncovered, and I remember when they were going to the banks, and the banks were reluctant to give them information, and they started finding these shell corporations that money would go into for members of the Biden family, granddaughters, brothers, and different things like that. And this committee has uncovered, Brother Love, that the Biden family, from the time period of 2014 to now, has been paid approximately $27 million. That is huge. That is an indication, if true, because you are innocent until proven guilty. That's what I believe. Sometimes folks don't believe that. But if true, that is clearly an indication that there has been some wrongdoings by the Biden family. And it also takes me back to when Donald Trump stood on the stage when they were doing the debate in June, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And Joe Biden mentioned, he said, only one person on the stage is a felon. And Donald Trump said, well, Joe, listen, if things come out about you, and I'm paraphrasing, you might be a felon too. And so, you have to be very, very careful about, what you say about people and different things like that, because Democrats and a lot of people are saying, well, Donald Trump is a felon, you can't vote for a felon. Listen, if someone has been convicted of a felony Just like we talked about here in the state of Florida, you have to believe in second chance and redemption. It doesn't go one way, even if it is Donald Trump. You can't just look at somebody and say, because you're a felon, you can't do anything else. But when you start throwing rocks in a glass house, Brother Love, you have to be prepared for the fact that that rock may bounce off of that glass house and hit your house and break some windows too.
Yeah, Brother Jackson, let me ask you this, because as people are listening to this broadcast, you're going to have individuals say, okay, is this partisan politics?
I mean, it would appear to be partisan politics because this is a Republican-led committee, because the Democrats have opted not to participate in it. Unlike the Republicans, Cheney and I forget the other Republican that participated in the Trump impeachment hearings, the Democrats, they just don't want to be a part of it. But I would hope that if these things came out, that those individuals, if they were Democrats that were on that committee, if anyone, that they would not have put party over justice.
So Greg, let me ask you this question: where does this go from here? Because now this is a finding, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And so, the next step is that this committee will take it to the full body of the House to make a determination if there is going to be an impeachment of Donald Trump, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, not Donald Trump, of Joe Biden, which is absolutely ridiculous, because then if he's impeached, then you would have two presidents impeached 3 times, is what it would technically be. One over an issue that was not founded to be true, and one over an issue that has been hidden for several years, dare I say 10 years, even though there was actual audio video of him saying that he withheld $1 billion because a prosecutor who was looking into his son's activities with the company was not being fired or would not be fired. That clearly cannot and should not be done in government.
So Attorney Jackson, here's my and boy, I feel real good because I'm actually having an opportunity to sit in the seat that you usually sit in. So my other question is, November, we're going to be voting for a new president.
Yeah.
What happens, because
For
everybody,
a new president or a new old president?
yeah, depending on how you look.
Trump has been president before. So
Yeah.
a new old president or a new president,
president.
a vice president that has been president before.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'll tell you why he's such a good attorney. but so President Biden won't be in office, and we know how slow the wheels turn of government. So with him being a past president, do they still have any abilities for accountability? Is I guess the question I'm asking.
Well, I mean, listen, folks have said that no president is above the law. President Biden himself has said that no president is above the law. If they do not institute or initiate impeachment proceedings before he leaves office, then I think that very well may leave him open for criminal prosecution if he's no longer a sitting president. And if he's found guilty, then he should be willing to accept the same punishment that he said that Donald Trump or anyone else who is not above the law should be willing to accept. That's why I say you have to be very careful when you say certain things and do certain things, because that same arrow that you shoot can come back and can hit you. And that's why I tell Democrats, don't be so happy when all these things are going your way and all of these things are happening, because it can easily be reversed and Republicans could be doing the same thing. So when I say these things, it's not that, I'm a Republican no, it's the fact that when I look at these things and I realize that they aren't done appropriately, this same type of tactics can be used against the Democratic Party.
Right. Attorney Jackson, Vice President Harris has been on the campaign trail talking about it. See, I'm trying to hope. Hey, talking about economic plan. So,
It is
You're
no
right.
secret.
You're right.
It is
You're
no
right.
secret that I'm not a Joe Biden fan. I'm not a Donald Trump fan either. I'm not a Joe Biden fan. But I'm most certainly not a fan of how it is that today, and starting the Democratic National Convention, that Kamala Harris is going to be the Democratic nominee when she did not earn a single vote from a single constituent out of the 15 million people that voted. She didn't earn a single one of those votes. And Joe Biden was basically railroaded and pushed out of his position by individuals who felt that he just wasn't strong enough to beat Donald Trump, when for months, if not years, they told us that Joe Biden was the most cognizant, was the best version of himself, and now we're being told that he cannot continue to race. What are we supposed to believe as Democrats?
Right.
Are we really supposed to believe now that Kamala Harris is the best person to be at the top of the ticket for Democrats now, after they told us that Joe Biden was that person, and then you say the wheels of government, not fine, I'm on my soapbox, bro, not fine. And you tell us, Brother Love, you said that the wheels of government run slow or move slow. Not when they're trying to get a former president out of the way. I am very disappointed in what has happened and how Joe Biden was treated. Even though I am not a Joe Biden fan, I'm very disappointed in how he's been treated.
Well, let me hit you with this thing. I really believe that the Democratic Party got a blessing. I'm going to tell you what that blessing was. That blessing was, Attorney Jackson, presidential debates don't take place normally on a normal cycle. Mm-hmm. Have we ever seen a presidential debate take place that early? Now, just imagine where we would be had that debate had taken place in September, like it normally would have.
Brother Love, I want you to go back and watch the show leading up to when that debate was coming. And I told the Democrats, and I told y'all then that the fix was in. I told you then that this is unprecedented. There's a reason why this is happening, and that the fix was in, and that there was going to be something that happens. Now, I didn't think that Joe Biden would bow to the pressure and would get out, but he did. He didn't have to, but he did. And like I said, bro, I cannot say enough how disappointed I am with how he was treated.
But can you imagine had this taken place in September?
I mean, listen, I'm glad we found out sooner rather than later. I'm so glad. But people still assume that Donald Trump would have beaten even a frail, cognitively challenged Joe Biden. They're still assuming it.
Yeah.
Because listen, there's so many people out there that says anybody but Trump. Anybody but Trump. They'll vote for anybody but Trump. I still think that Joe Biden had a fighting chance in the race. And Kamala Harris could have eventually become president anyways.
Well, Brother Jackson, I'm going to be as direct as I can possibly be. I didn't think he had a fighting chance worth nothing.
Even Donald Trump said he had a chance. He had a chance. Listen, he legitimately had a chance.
Saying that with a straight face, too.
Because he did. He had a chance. I ain't saying it's a good chance, but he had a chance.
He had a chance.
He had a chance. Listen, he legitimately
I guess being on stage breathing is qualified.
That is enough for some people.
Okay.
And the fact that right now you have people that are trying to convince African Americans that we have to vote for Kamala Harris, otherwise we are not African American, which is it still irks my nerves.
People do believe that voters have a bad memory.
Apparently they do, and they also believe that black voters, African American voters, are tied to a singular party, which we are not and should not be. There's some out there. Listen, if that's how you roll, that's how you roll, but that's how you lose power also.
Right, but also, Greg, I do believe that you're going to see, and I mean, that's just my belief, and I'm not encouraging, but I do believe that you're going to see a higher percentage of the African-American vote either get off the sofa and not necessarily go in the direction that they normally go in, or sit on the sofa and stay home.
I think you're going to see a larger number of people not going out to vote. And I think that the polls, and I understand, and I think the polls are starting to level out some because there was a big move and a big shift towards Kamala Harris. But I think the polls are leveling out to where it's more so a dead heat now. And I think that as time goes on and as debates come up and as Kamala Harris continues to speak, that there are going to be more and more people that say either I can't vote for her or I'm not getting into this.
So how much of a role, how critical do you think independents are going to be in this race?
Critically important, very important, as they are with every election. And the other thing, just kind of going back to Kamala being on the campaign trail now, and I cut you off because I was joking too much. But yeah, I mean, she is on the campaign trail. She was out, was it Pennsylvania or Michigan? Was she out and she gave her economic plan, her economic policy? And not only did it sound, a portion of it, somewhat like what Donald Trump has said with regards to no taxes on tips, but she said something, Brother Love, that I was like, as a voter, I wonder if the Democratic Party thinks that we are as dumb as they think we are, or as dumb as we look, because she said that under President Trump, if this was a Trump, presidency, that the price of gas would be higher, and that the price of food would be higher. Now, I remember under President Trump, and again, Brother Love, I hate that I have to keep saying this. I am not a Donald Trump fan, the person. But I don't look at a president as someone that I want to be my best friend and come to my house and sip a glass of Macallan with him.
Yeah.
I look at a president that's going to keep this country safe, that's going to push forward economic policies, that's going to help Americans and different things like that. And if I remember correctly, Brother Love, and I took a picture of this and I put it on Facebook, when Donald Trump left office, gas prices were hovering around $1.89 to $1.99. The lowest that gas prices have been since the Biden economic plan has taken full swing, because in the initial phases, yeah, it was doing fine. But then we started to see what it was really all about. And you can't blame COVID, because COVID was over by then. He can't keep talking about, you did not inherit COVID. You inherited a plan that helped to relieve the stress. But if you look at that, if you also look at food prices, you see that food prices have increased. If you look at inflation, inflation has increased. So why is it and how is it that Kamala Harris can stand in front of voters and say that if Trump is president, all of these things are going to be higher? So is she saying now that gas prices are going to be $7 a gallon?
I hope that's not
because that's not what we, if we remember, if we really and truly go back and be honest with ourselves, and we remember, that's not the situation. Then I hear this whole thing about, tax breaks for the wealthy and things like that. I'm telling you, Brother Love, when Donald Trump became president, I remember within the first month or two of his presidency, when I was getting a paycheck, my paycheck was $400 more per pay period. $400 more when Trump was president. As soon as Trump left office and Biden's plan took place, for people saw that money, that extra money leaving their checks. That is real world. So it's not that there was tax breaks for the rich. It was tax breaks for middle class people such as myself.
Well, Greg, I'm gonna tell you what I'm hearing more about. I'm hearing more about security of the country being one of the issues. What I'm hearing more about, and we both are hearing this more about than ever before, is I'm hearing about how gracious our country is to individuals that want to realize the American dream, but they are not coming over to America to realize that dream legally. And I'm hearing more about benefits that we're affording individuals. And if you look at New York, you look at Chicago, you look at Greg, there are some other places where.
Well, listen, no, you don't even have to look there anymore, Brother Love. Look right here in the state of Florida. Did you see the report with Sheriff Grady Judd?
No.
So apparently there were some individuals that came into this country illegally, and they had an illegal a criminal ring where they were breaking into people's homes, and they had approximately, I think, like $1.7 million of damage that they had done. Illegal immigrants who were in this country illegally.
See, but and you're talking about damage. What I was talking about is individuals that went before City of Chicago commission to say to them, you're taking our taxpayer money and housing individuals, and we got homeless that are in Chicago. When you look at New York, basically saying you're closing public schools and using taxpayer money to rent hotels, the entire hotels, as
five-star hotels,
as a processing center. I'm talking about, Greg, we're talking about serious money here.
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. But I'm hearing more and more people that are talking about the fact that being benevolent has its limits.
Yeah.
And it was one compelling individual that I saw a video of, this woman who was a veteran, and she worked and paid for a food truck, $25,000.
I heard about this.
Yes, $25,000. She said she worked hard and paid for that food truck in cash. Then, as she continued to grow and blossom as an entrepreneur, she was selling the food truck because she got into some other things that was flourishing for her. But she said what broke her heart was an undocumented immigrant came to her to purchase this $25,000 truck. And they had papers to show that they were actually getting a taxpayer loan to purchase this truck.
Yeah.
And they had the paperwork. And this woman didn't begrudge this individual because she said she was happy that this individual was able to purchase a truck. But she looked back on her hard-earned efforts to be able to pay $25,000 for a food truck. And an individual that comes from another country was able to show her proof that she was eligible for a government loan that secured the loan for the food truck. She's just asking the question, why does she work so hard?
Well, we know why, and I want people to also understand this. And this is not me saying it. These are the words from Kamala Harris herself. Kamala Harris said that she is not going to do anything that benefits African Americans specifically. She said she can't do it, and she's not going to do it. Why would I do anything that benefits one race? And it's been done for other races, but we've talked about this. So all of you black voters out there who are being told that you have to vote for Kamala Harris or whatever the reason may be, she's already shown us and told us who she is. She was a prosecutor in the state of California where she imprisoned a number of African American males, which, listen, if they needed to be in prison, they needed to be in prison. I'm not going to have any problems with that. But there were certain cases where her office overcharged or mistakenly charged people where they didn't take it back. She's on record as saying that she is not going to do anything specific for the African American race. Period. That's what she said. I didn't say it. If you don't believe me, go back and you could hear her words for yourself. All right. But Brother Love, what's this?
This is the young lady.
The food truck lady.
Go ahead, Doc.
Who's running for president? I have heard all over social media about, excuse me if I say anything wrong, immigrants getting loans, money. It was hard for me to believe. It was just extremely hard for me to believe. I've been in business such a long time. Back in 2019, I purchased my first food truck. It cost me over $25,000. I paid it cash money. I worked hard to pay for this truck. I'm now selling it because I'm doing other things, but I'm selling it. I had a guy come to look at purchasing my vehicle, or my food truck. And he explained to me he's an illegal immigrant. He has no credit. He has no money in the bank. But he showed me his paperwork that he will receive funds to purchase my food truck. I'm thankful that he's buying it, but I'm hurt that I worked so hard to pay cash for my food truck. I have good credit, can't even get a business loan because of the color of my skin. I have veterans in my family. I'm a veteran. I've been self-employed for so long. But somebody, please tell me, how do I work so hard to have somebody who comes to this country, not long, no credit, and he shows me paperwork where they'll be funding him money to buy my food truck. And when I talked to the bank, they told me usually they have to go straight to a dealership because I'm a private sale. But for special circumstances, they're going to, they allow it. But I need my president to tell me why I worked so hard all these years, all these decades. Couldn't get a business loan, but I bust my ass to get the money to create my business. And we got immigrants coming here. And they're getting money. Money! We're doing nothing but just being. It's not right, and I want answers.
Attorney Jackson, I mean, and thanks to our executive producer, but man, I'm left speechless.
I'm not, because the funny thing is going to be is that it's going to be African American females who still go out and vote for Kamala Harris. They don't care, and that's the more appalling thing. And this lady right here, she's probably going to go vote for Kamala Harris at the end of the day.
I believe the pain though.
Well, but it's people that are living paycheck to paycheck. There are people right now who can't afford gas and they're making those decisions who are still going to vote for Kamala Harris. I understand the pain. I see the pain, but listen, it is what it is. Hey, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so we've done our job then.
Yeah, listen. All we can do is let people know, and if that's your decision, God bless you. That's your right. But Brother Love, something was very interesting said, and I want people to realize this. because it was the Democrat Party that was instrumental in ensuring that segregation did not go away. And they fought hard to ensure that segregation stayed in place. And thankfully, well, I don't know if I want to say thankfully, but segregation did not remain an institution in our country. And someone brought up something. They said that Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, back in the early 1900s, when Black Wall Street was burned to the ground, when it was pillaged and those businesses were burned to the ground, Black Wall Street actually rebuilt within 1 to 2 years. And they were able to recoup and recover from the burnings, the lynchings, and all of the other things that took place. The thing that took Black Wall Street out of existence was integration. When individuals decided that they were no longer going to support African-American businesses or businesses within their own communities, but step outside of their communities in order to support those communities. And that's what we as African-Americans have to realize. We have beat everything else, and now we're beating ourselves.
I think that is a good final lesson for the Let's Talk Nation segment. Brother Jackson, I appreciate that, man. Brother, you don't have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
Hey, Let's Talk Nation every Monday night from 7 to 8 p.m. You got Attorney Jackson and myself. We look forward to seeing you. Please join us.